Hello, welcome to my channel Western Signalling. I'm James, and if you are following my OO9 build, then you know I got as far as building the baseboard. Then I was about to lay the track, and then I realised that I need to build my engine shed. So, here it is. Let's see how we get on.
In the last episode, you would have seen that we finished on a bit of a dilemma, because I wanted to lay the track, but I didn't know how big the engine shed was going to be. I knew it was going to have 2 roads, but that was it. The kit in question is the Peco OO gauge line side LK 2192 2-road engine shed, based on that of Boston Lodge. And this is how I got on building it.
My wish listing done. This, as I say, is the Peco kit shed. It is laser cut. Get it out of the packet. And first thing I will tell you is that this thing smells absolutely glorious. The kit itself consists of the shed and a disc signal. So this is sort of a very early style of signalling. I'll be honest, I'm not massively familiar with how the signalling works on the Festinio, because it's quite a large system. I always had assumed it's been some sort of token working, but a disc signal works in the, and I'm pretty sure that's the face of it, so that's stop, and then it will swing like that, and that's go. So it's kind of like your semaphores, that's stop, that's go. Some people think that's go. They live in the Midlands. This kit is, it just looks great, to be honest. It looks to me great fun to build. There's lots of instructions for me to read, and I did notice that you can join the kits together, which is brilliant. I mean, this is just going to be it needs it to hold 2 locos, because this is where the banker and the shunter will live at Dinrhyd, and the reason for the shed being there, they stay there for the week, so they come up. Well, then, they come up on a Monday morning. I think that's, off the top of my head, that was the fictional history. They come up on a Monday morning. One will be on shunting duties, and one will be in banking duties. And then due to the severity of the line and the traffic, the bankers will then be used to help any of the heavy freight trains that have come from Porthcawl up the steep mountain roads around the Snowdon Mountains. So, I am going to have a quick brief look over these instructions to make sure I know what I'm doing. When I come back, I'm going to start building this kit. Well, I've read through the instructions. Oh, I lied. I read the first bit of the instructions, then just looked at the pictures. I decided I can work this out. I'll put this together. I'm not recommending you do that. You should always read the instructions. So apologies. The walls essentially work as double-sided. So this is the interior, this is the exterior, and then cleverly they have this pattern here so that you can add the extension or not if you decide to lengthen the shed. So if this goes well, I will probably buy a few more of these kits so I can build a bigger shed if I do the Porthcawl board. I really do want to model Porthcawl at some point, because I really want to have a go at doing a proper harbour scene, and maybe, I mean, all depends really. If there was a ready-to-run Cambrian Railway locomotive, I would most certainly model this in the Victorian era so that I could do like the old sailing ships and stuff like that. But we'll see. As you can probably guess from me, I like to start many projects and never finish them, and have lots of ideas and then never get anything done. So, yeah, we'll see on that. We'll just stick to this for now. I am going to stick this on a time lapse. I'm going to start building this kit, and either play you some music, talk you through what I'm doing, or just give you some random factoids. What I do next, I don't know, I haven't decided, but you'll just get to see me build this shed. I've stopped it there because you could probably tell just from the video that things aren't going well. So I've tried gluing this together with rocket glue, and that is not holding at all. Just these three components have just come apart immediately. The glue immediately dries, but it's got no bond. So I think I'm going to have to try probably Yoo-hoo, or maybe Gliss Glue and Glaze. But we shall see. And the components, now as a word of warning, sometimes you might actually be better just trying to cut them out by looking at the back. It's not really obvious sometimes where the tabs are that are holding it in place. And as with this piece number 5, I actually had to go through the cut again with a knife to release it from the spur. So that's something to bear in mind there. Yeah, so I'm going to try a different glue. I might try the glue and glaze just because it's a PVA based glue and hopefully it won't be as messy as the Yoo-hoo, and we'll see how we get on with that. If that doesn't work, then it's the Yoo-hoo. Just try to avoid the Yoo-hoo, if I'm honest. It's, as I say, it gets a bit stringy and messy and you have to tidy it all up and it can be a bit of a pain. But if it's the only glue I've used, it's the only glue I can use. So we'll see. The glue and glaze seems to have done the trick. That seems to be just the right glue for that. Feels nice and strong. It sets quite quick, but not too quick that you can't work with it. So I'm going to stick with that for the duration of the build. I'm going to continue building this. I don't think it really needs another time lapse of you watching me build the kit. If I get to anything that seems a bit tricky, that I might need to talk through, I'll talk you through it. Otherwise, I'm going to see you on the other side when all these walls are together.
Now, as I'm building the kit, here's something to bear in mind if you get one yourself to build. The instructions say when you've done this side of the wall that we put the, I think it's called the garter strip on the top, making sure the notches line up with the notches on the inner wall, because this is probably, I assume, where the trusses are going to go. And then attach wall number 7 and then 8 and 9 on the sides. Now, if you're doing it like I am with 8 and 9, this shouldn't be too difficult because we just do a dry run on here. As you can see, we just pop them on and everything lines up. So it's all nice and square. However, if you were to be building an extended version of this kit, it's not going to be so easy trying to work out where number 7 goes on its own. So there's nothing really obvious on here. So all I can recommend is do exactly what I've done here and just do a dry run with number 8 here, and then maybe just pop number 9 on there whilst you glue number 7 down and then remove it afterwards so that everything's still in the right position. Yeah, it would have been nice just to have something just to make you feel more confident everything was in the right place, but that's the only way I can think of doing it. Right then, I've built both sets of walls and I had a go with Yoo-hoo on this wall just to, because it's such a large surface area, I thought it might be better. It wasn't. The Yoo-hoo takes a lot longer to dry than the glue and glaze. I think this is the way forward. So yeah, it was a little bit of fiddling about. It kept sliding whilst it was drying. So I think the Yoo-hoo obviously shrinks and it pulls the wool. So I had to keep sliding it back in place. And as you can see, there's a bit there just sticking up, which I think that's that now. I don't think I'm going to be able to get that to stick down. No, not. I can't think of a way anyway, not right now. Anyway, next instruction is the 3A, which is building the back wall. Now it says to glue 10 to 11 and then attach to the 2 side walls. But again, you walk into the same problem that there's no obvious, I'm trying to get the camera way too close. There's no obvious line up. It's sort of, I've put it there and that might roughly be right. But if that's out by a little bit, that's going to make the whole thing out. So I am going to build it differently to what the instructions say.
I'm going to attach the rear wall to these side walls first, so that aligns up, and then I'm going to attach the outer wall afterwards, and I think that will allow me to get everything in the right position. So there we are. Right, I've put the walls up and joined it all into a nice box shape. I did this corner, get my finger in the shop, and this corner at the same time. I think in future, if I was to do this again, I'd probably just do one of the corners, make sure it's dried in, and then glue the other corner. Although it might be a bit difficult to get the glue in place. But nevertheless, it's done. Now, as I said, the reason was because you couldn't quite work out how to line this up properly. This does not butt up right to the edge, because that is a downpipe for the guttering. See it there? So that's obviously got to overlap a little bit on each side. So the best place to line it up is probably with that top guttering. Try and get it in focus. There we are. I can't get it in focus without falling over. There. So bear that in mind if you were building this kit. You don't want to make those walls flush, because if you did it flush on this side, no doubt it's going to be sticking out way too far on this side. So that's something to bear in mind if you are indeed building this kit. Right then, that's the shed given a coat of primer. Nice, just humble grey #1. And then I've done the same with the roof, and then I've just gone over it and I've misted it and got it darker in the middle with some whatever Warhammer's brand of paint is. They're black, Chaos Black. I can't think of the top of it. Citadel paint. Yeah, so I've just misted it so it's lighter at the edge and then darker towards the middle, because that's where the smoke would go. I don't think it has to be too detailed, because you're not really going to see it unless you're poking your head trying to get through that door there. Good luck trying to get your head through that door, by the way. So yeah, just as long as it's covered, I think that should be all right. And then I haven't done the trusses, because the beauty of this kit being in wood is I thought, well, I can stain this. So I've just watered down. If I just water down some paint, I can stain this woodwork, and I think that would look really nice and sort of have that natural wood effect. So that's what I'm going to do with them. And then for the walls, I'm going to use one of my favourite methods, which is various colours in the, I use Life Colours Stone. They do a set of 6, and it's one of my favourite sets of their colours. And I'll just get bits of sponge and I'll just dab it on and mix it and blend it to give that sort of natural stone looking effect, which works quite well. So that's the plan for painting it. And then once I paint the interior, I shall continue building the building, because the exterior can be done once the build is complete. The other advantage of doing this way is that I can see little bits that need gluing down. I've worked out anything that pokes up, I just get a little bit of super glue on a cocktail stick, just push it behind the gap, hold it down for a couple of seconds, and then that will solve that problem there. So that's another little tip for you if you were to be building this kit. Right then, here we are. The interior of the shed is painted. So see, I've stained that woodwork and then painted the timber frames that are into the back wall there. And on the front is just a simple coat of brown, because let's face it, once that roof is on, you are never going to see that. So that would have kind of been a bit of a waste of time, really. The walls then that are sort of supporting the trusses, you can see there's brick pillars. I've opted for a grey, just kept the grey colour that had already been applied, and then just put a lime mortar in the mortar lines. So that's come out like that. I wasn't sure whether to do it red brick or sort of the slate grey, but looking at sort of around the area of North Wales, most buildings just tend to be built of slate, so it seemed more sensible to keep it that colour. And then the bottom I've just painted in the wooden brown, sort of very worn wood colours again. Not quite sure what it's meant to be, if it's sort of part supporting of the structure or if that's actually meant to be there. I tried getting photos of inside Boston Lodge
just to get an idea, but it wasn't obvious what those bits were. So I've just painted that colour. I don't think it matters. But yeah, that's the interior all painted up. Looks pretty good. It looks really well actually, and then the most annoying thing will be once that roof goes on, you'll never see all that lovely paintwork anyway. But there we are. I do like to make things look right when I paint. So this kit actually can be built in a couple of ways. One of the things is it comes with these parts here, which is just solid slate roof, and you can put them on there and build the shed without any roof vents. But as you can see, I've started placing in the parts to build the roof vents, and there's also some smokestacks that can go here and here. So obviously I'm thinking in double O, and I was thinking this is quite a small shed, but if you just had tank engines, you could probably get 4 engines in this shed. But with this, you could double it up and make a very nice carriage shed, I think. So there's a lot of versatility with this kit. Anyway, as I say, I'm building the roof vents along here. I'm going to build up the roof, and then I think it's just the doors, and then this kit is ready to have its final paint to be finished.
Okay, when building the vents, then there's a few things to bear in mind. Firstly, I've painted the entire inside in sort of this dirty black colour, just so I mean, I imagine when the roof tiles are on, you won't be able to really see in there anyway, but that's why I've done that. And then you apply all the parts. So obviously these ones go in the middle because they're the largest. The ones on the side, just something to just bear in mind and pay attention to is that this one is a sort of deeper groove than this side. And so that goes in there, the more shallow groove goes in there because it's got to share it with the larger piece. So that's something just to bear in mind. If you start putting it together and you go, that doesn't seem quite right, because that's what I did. That's why it's the pieces aren't quite the right way. And then piece 22 is quite easy. It's just the inside of the triangle goes this way to allow for the roof to be put on afterwards. So there we are.
Right, I've added the roof. This is a really tricky customer, and as you can see, everything's still not quite lined up. Look, those ridge tiles are a little bit out. See if I can push them up. Not ridge tiles kind of top. But talking of ridge tiles, this piece number 19, which went in the centre here, you butt everything up to it. It's not obvious, it's not mentioned in the instructions, and I did try overlapping to see if the tiles would meet up, but then you have the unsightly sort of V-shape dip where the ridge tiles should be. So it looks like everything should butt up to here, but this isn't easy. This was very, very tricky. It's very fiddly. Maybe it's because I tried gluing all the 8 pieces here all at once. But I felt that if I didn't, I wouldn't get everything in line. But that doesn't seem to matter because everything seems out of line anyway. There's quite some unsightly gaps in here as well. So yeah, this might need a little bit of filler just to sort of sort it out. I definitely need to play around with bits still. This was very difficult to put together, I'm not going to lie. This is probably the hardest part of the build. So yeah, I'm going to put the camera down because obviously I can see how this looks horrendous, and we'll try and make it look a little bit better. Right, I had attached the roof. You can see from this glue stain bottom here, but I wasn't happy with it. Firstly, the wood is a little bit bowed. As you can see, it's natural. It's very thin plywood. It's got a bow, but the corners kept pulling up, and whatever I did wouldn't stick them down. And then as I examined the roof further, I realised that the small holes that had been left for the chimneys actually weren't visually. They did look aligned in that they were not all the same space. So the roof was obviously just a little bit ski width. And I thought, I know what happened here. If I let this glue dry, this roof then won't come off. I'll try and put the chimneys on and they won't fit in the holes provided. So I just took a decorator's filler knife, and just prise the roof off very, very gently to make sure I didn't break it or damage it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the chimneys first, and then once the chimneys are built, I'm going to use them as a guide to make sure that the roof goes in place properly, and I'll try and get it to stick down so it doesn't bow and sort of just pull up in the air. You also see I've used some filler just on the gaps there, which is vastly improved things. It needs sanding down, but I think that looks a lot better than the unsightly gaps that had been left when the roof had been first put on. Right, I've built the first chimney, and I thought it's quite fiddly, so they give you a little jig, and I've glued the jig together because when it wasn't glued together, that made things a lot worse because it would move and then the parts would drop, and anyway, got there in the end. However, be warned, be very warned, there is an issue with the instructions. The instructions tell you to build the jig, then put 32 on the jig, followed by 34 being glued in place. All good so far. However, it then tells you to add 33, then 35, and finally, get it focused, 36. But that doesn't work because 36 actually goes here in the chimney. So what you should do is build the jig, 32, 34, don't do this instruction, 36, then 33, then 35. Alright, so that's something to bear in mind. And as I decided to use super glue to make sure that this dried quick so it wasn't too fiddly, that was very awkward to try and get that in. I had to prise the wood back and then push it in with a pair of tweezers. I managed to do it, but it wasn't ideal. So Peco, if anyone at Peco is paying attention or watching, first, thanks for watching. But secondly, you need to revise your instructions because they are wrong. This is the roof then all added with the chimneys built, which I think is the right way to do it. I put some Yoo-hoo glue on the roof. It had the added advantage that the previous glue was still a bit tacky, so that sort of held it in place as well. And then obviously I've just put the chimney pots in to make sure that they line up with the holes underneath and the roof all stays in place. So yeah, if you're building this kit, I would recommend to do the same. Build your chimney pots before attaching this roof so that you can use them to help align where the roof goes. Because that's, if I had any complaint about this kit, it's aligning things. There's no obvious markings on stuff of how to align. You know, with the laser cutter, I'm pretty sure they could have just burnt, like a little square marking there. Or they must be able to, because like you have like the number 19 on this bit here, so engraved. So they could have engraved markings as guides to help when building the kit. Several times there's bits that if you don't get the lining up, I think you can make the kit sort of out of shape and out of place. So that's the only downside, I'd say. Otherwise, I think it's quite a nice kit, and I've been quite enjoyable to build. Let's say this is the roof's probably been the toughest part of it so far, but there we are. That's all in place. It says to put the gables on. I'm not going to do that because I want to paint them, weather them, and then I'll put them on afterwards. I've done this stone, so that'll get done afterwards. Obviously, these chimneys need painting. The roof tiles need a colour of slate, and then the only other job left to do is to add the doors. And again, I won't add the doors until I've painted them because I want to give them a weathered look. It's a lot easier to do those sort of things when everything's separate. So, build-wise, as I say, there's the signal to do, but I'm going to do that another time. Because otherwise it will just get built and left lying around and more than likely get damaged. All that left then is, as I say, the gables and just doing these doors, which is a simple job of taking the doors out, putting the framework behind the doors, and then painting it up and then adding it to the shed. That is otherwise the shed built. Obviously, you see there's bits of masking tape I just put on there just to hold everything in place while the glue dries. But yeah, that's the shed pretty much done. So I'm going to paint it up and
unless I come across anything else that I think might be useful to tell you, next time you should see this shed should be a complete painted and weathered model, hopefully. And here it is then. The shed is finished, painted and weathered. So I've done the doors. I'm not going to lie, I did mess the doors up because these battens on the bottom should be at the bottom. And you've got the hinges, the lower hinge is actually closer to the bottom of the door than the top of the hinge. And basically I glued two of them the wrong way around. So I've pulled them apart, glued them back together, but they've come out all right. I've weathered the roof. Some very subtle weathering, and then sort of streaks from the chimneys where they've got a bit rusty. It's washed down, the same off the edges of the roof. And then I've just dabbed on the very, very small amount of green and sort of orange ochre colours to represent moss on the roof. So there we are. That is the engine shed. And most importantly, as you can see, is that there is room for an engine shed and a railway line to run beside it. So I don't have to worry about space. Well, that's the engine shed built and on the layout. And as you can see, I've progressed with the layout. But that's for a video for next time. I still need to show you painting that lovely signal box and laying the track and wiring everything up. So plenty more to look forward to. Will the shed stay like this? I'm not too sure. And why? Well, you'll have to watch in the future to find out my reasons for why I may need to adapt it. As for now, all I can say is thanks for watching. If you like the video, then click the like button, click the subscribe button if you want to see more, and hopefully I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.
Quick, grab that remote and select another video to watch.